All right, good morning, Doc D. Back again. This should be a fairly short lecture today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about um, SQL itself because we're starting on the online SQL Bolt exercises, and as I started going through those, it dawned on me that there are probably several people, and I could be completely wrong on this, but there are probably people who um, never really been exposed to Boolean logic, and so I thought that I would take this opportunity to go ahead and do that, to talk a little bit about SQL, and so I've modified my lecture that I typically use, and typically in class I'll do demonstrations of the different things, and so I've modified this lecture to hopefully fit the bill. And so I'll be going back and forth between this lecture, and then I'll also drop in on the SQL, or excuse me, the SQL Bolt um, series to highlight some things. And so hopefully this will cover enough to get us started, and go from there. So if you run into things that you're just totally clueless on, please send me an email and let me know that hey, we don't know how to do this, and I'll make sure to address that. So, all right. So first, let's talk a little bit about structured query language, otherwise known as SQL or SQL. Really, I mean, it's kind of like searching through Google, and there are some people who are very good at searching for items out of Google, and sometimes it can be very frustrating because you have to be very specific in how you word things, and there are Boolean search functions that will help us find the things that we're looking for. All right, and so one of the common things that you hear from computer science people is that it's not that I'm smarter than you, it's just that my Google foo is better than yours, and so kind of plays in here. So basically, SQL is a language using logic conventions to find things in databases. All right, and so what we're going to talk about mostly today is how to find things that you know and things that maybe you're not really sure of. And so our Boolean logic will allow us to go in and search for different things. And so an example might be that you watched a movie and you remember that the author's name, or the director's name was Phil. All right, but you don't remember anything else. Well, we would be able to take that information and at least narrow down our results to find the information that we're looking for. And so SQL is very, very powerful, and the more that you delve into it and understand it, the more powerful it becomes. All right, and then all database languages use logic and set theory. All right, so if you've already started on this, you've already seen the basic SQL or SQL query, all right, which is basically saying, hey, I'm looking for this information, please return it to me. All right, so the basic SQL query is a select whatever it is that you're looking for, all right, from, and that's going to be from a particular table, and then where is where we set up our conditional information. All right, and so this is where, if I know exactly what the author or the director's name is, then I'll put it in there where author, good grief, I'm stuck. When I do this in class, I use a different database that's on a bookstore. That's why I'm stuck in that mode. So if I knew that the director was John Lasseter, I could put where director equals, and then in quotes, John Lasseter. All right. So again, it can be very, very powerful. But you know, again, maybe I don't remember his full name. I remember that it was John Last something. All right. Well, I would be able to search. You know, I might actually start the search as where director equals John and then a star, or is like John and a star. All right, and so that'll return anywhere where there's John, and then whatever after that, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. I would be able to pull those up and find those. All right, let's see here. All right, I kept this slide in. We will actually be talking about creating tables later on in the SQL Bolt lecture series or exercises. But for right now, I don't want you to focus on the whole create table. What I do want you to see is that there are different data types. All right, and so that can come to play a little later as we're doing some of this stuff. And so we have a character and then size. All right, and so I guess I should preface this by saying, if we go up here and we look at so column 1, so we're creating a table, and we're going to name it whatever it is. It doesn't matter. We can call it table. All right, and so column 1 will be the first column, and I'm going to set my data type for that. All right, and this is similar to Excel, and then I can set a type of data for that. All right, and so for a CHR and then size, what I'm saying is it's basically a string of a fixed length. All right, and so if I knew that the data that was going to be coming into that was of a fixed length, then I could use that. I could say, you know, a character of 5 or 6, or maybe it's only 2. Maybe it's a yes/no, and so the character size would be 1. All right. All right. Varchar, or variable character, basically is very similar to that, only what we're saying is that we're not sure what the size of that is going to be. It's still going to be a string character, and we'll talk about string versus integer versus float, all that good stuff here in a little bit. But so Varchar is saying that, you know, and the size is setting the maximum length of that. So we know that we're going to have varying lengths of data that are put in there, and so we're specifying what that maximum amount is. And again, this is still a string. All right, and then we have number, and so this is basically integer, and so integers are whole numbers. All right, and again, we're specifying how many places that is, and these are left of the decimal. So, you know, if it was 1,000, you know, so that's what we're doing. Date, all right. So date formats, and again, you know, there are functions that do all of this embedded within SQL. All right, so this just makes it more efficient for us that, you know, we have these shortcuts to be able to set these types of things. All right, so a date value. So all right, and then number, size, and then comma D. All right, so this is basically it's very similar to a varchar, only, you know, it's numbers, and then with so many digits to the right of this decimal. And then we also have this float, which is basically a decimal number, and we can establish what size that is. All right, so if that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, it's okay. But as we get further into this, and we'll be talking about different data types, it's kind of important to know that there are different data types and how they're specified. And again, you know, as we get further into SQL Bolt, we'll actually be doing some of that stuff. But for now, it's just kind of an introduction to, hey, you know, there are different data types. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, so wildcards. That's one of the strengths of SQL, is its ability to use wildcards, which means I don't have to know the exact bit of data that I'm looking for. All right, I can get close, and I can use wildcards constructively to find what I'm looking for. And so here we've got the star, which means match everything, and it had a question mark, which matches any character. No restrictions on character. All right, and so you're probably like, well, what does that mean? Well, it means it could be punctuation, could be a CHR or a VAR CHR or a float. I mean, you know, it could be anything. All right, and so it's just saying that this matches any particular character, and so the placement of that obviously will be very important. All right, let's see here. Okay, so here we've got the like operator, and so this is used with wildcards. And so this is where I was talking about if I remembered that, you know, a director's first name was Phil, or he had Phil in his name, then I could use these wildcards to filter through all the data. And again, think about, you know, there might be a million entries within this database, and we want to pull out the ones that that we're looking for. You know, we're only looking for one, but there's millions of data sets in there, and we're only looking for one of those. All right, and so kind of like with Google, you know, if you aren't very careful in your wording on Google, you wind up with, you know, 10 million hits, and you're like, well, that was less than useful. All right, the more proficient you are at using wildcards and Boolean logic, the more likely you are to return the item that you're looking for, you know, in that top 5. All right, and maybe even that top 1. Okay, so here they've got, here we have our SQL structure, select, all right, title, which is going to be one of the column names in that table, from book, which is the name of the table, all right, where title, all right, so now we're referencing back again to this, so we're looking for a title, and then we're saying where title is like, and then we have this the and an asterisk. All right, and so notice this is enclosed in quotes because this is a string. All right, so it's going to go through and it's going to return any title within, you know, the millions of data sets that we have in there, where within the title column it starts with THE and then has a space, and then we have this asterisk. So it will return anything there. All right, so now if there was let's say there was a title called then, all right, that would not be returned, all right, because this space counts. So it's going to literally look for THE and then a space. All right, now if I moved this star over and I had THE star, then it would return a title called then. But the way that it's structured here, it would not. All right, and so here you can see what it returns: the stranger, the Dunwich, and others. The prodigal daughter. I thought it was the prodigal son. Is that even a movie? Somebody let me know. All right. So hopefully this is kind of making sense for you. All right. Okay. So let's go on. Here we go. Here we're looking for Phil. Oh, here we got a flow chart over here. Y'all should be able to read that now, right? All right. So again, we're using our standard SQL structure. So we're selecting name is the column name. Column name, yep. From author is the table, where name is like. All right, again, notice that this is in quotation marks because we're looking for a string. All right, and we got star, fill, star. All right, and so literally it's going to go through the names, and if there's anything, if there's fill anywhere in that name, it's going to return it. All right. Now, if we didn't have this star here, all right, then it would only return fill on. So, so if we had Phillips, all right, that would be returned. Yeah. Okay, so boy, I'm saying so a lot. Sorry about that. Hopefully, this is kind of like you're saying, yeah, okay, I get it. And so let's go on to the next slide here. All right, here are some other wildcard matches. All right, and these can be really helpful too. All right, so we got B and then a bracket, AE, and then LL. All right, what that's saying is that I can go in and I can search, and it will find anything that matches BALL, BELL. All right. However, what it would not match would be like Bill, or Bool, or Ball, or yeah, it will match Ball, but it won't be like BOL. Wouldn't match those. All right, but it will match Ball and Bell, but not Bill. All right, because so what it's doing is it's doing a single letter substitution within this subset here, that's this bracketed subset. So it'd find Ball, Bell, so forth. All right. Okay, here's just the opposite. Here I'm saying we're specifying B, and then we got this exclamation point, which basically means not. So not A and not E. So on this case, it would not match Ball, it would not match Bell, but it would match Bill. Yeah. It'd match Ball. All right. So hopefully you're seeing the utility in what we have here. All right. All right. So here we have another play off of this. Matches any character in a range of characters. All right, and these are in order. All right, because basically what we're looking at is when the computer goes through this, it actually sees an ASCII value for this A and C, and they are actually in order. And so if I were to say B A to Z, it would match any letter that fell within that. So Ball, Bell, Bill, whatever. All right. All right, and it must be in ascending order. And there may be a way to actually change that, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so A to Z. And so basically, you know, if I know that it starts with a B and it has some letter in here and then it ends with a D, I can structure this so I'd be able to find things that are similar to that could match. All right, here we have a 1 pound or #3 matches any single numeric character, so that would match 113, 123, 143, 153, 163, 103, so forth and so on. All right. So, you know, there really is a lot to remember about this, and I would encourage you to kind of create a little cheat sheet with these, because they will be useful to you when you start looking. And again, you know, the databases that we're using here are fairly small, and so it's not too hard to find the information. But you know, an average database that is out in the industry somewhere is literally going to have millions of entries, and so you know, we want to be proficient at being able to find those. So what's the goal of the class? Do we expect you to be proficient in SQL when you leave here? No. But what we do expect is that you know what SQL is, you are familiar with how to find information in SQL, and then how to do some basic some basic functions within SQL itself. So again, we don't expect you to be SQL experts when you're done with this class, but by the time you're done, you'll have a pretty good handle, I think, on database management, and then especially with relational databases. All right, so here's some more examples of wildcard matches, and this is really just the same thing that we've already talked about. So we got the WH and then the star, and so what that star means is that anything beyond that, it will say, yeah, okay, that's a match. So if it finds a WH at the start, and then if there's anything beyond that, and that anything could be nothing. So if there was, so if we had WHY and then star, well, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, anyhow, I mean, so basically 0 or more. All right, so here we've got the B question mark LL, and so that basically is a wildcard to fill anything. All right, we already talked about the B bracket AE. The antithesis to that, which is the not AE. All right, and then we've got the B with a range of letters in there. And then again, all right. So this is by far not all. All right, we'll talk about there's a function left and a function right, which pulls from a data set, and basically what it does, and again, this is all built into SQL as a function, and so all we're doing is we're calling that function, and then it's doing this for us. All right, so here we've got the standard SQL query. Select title, which would be the column, from book, which is our database, where left. All right, so here we're calling the function title comma 4 equals the. All right, and so we're looking from the left hand side of our data structure, and we're saying that, hey, there are 4, and so it's going to look for these 4 things. So the, H, E, and the space. All right, does that make sense? And again, so it's pulling up all of these. If there was, again, just like I talked about earlier, if there was then in here, it would not return the then. All right, so there's the function left. There's also a function right. Oh yeah, and so yeah, we don't want to use the like on here. We want to use the equal because we're looking for this exact thing. And really, when you're going to have to get in there and actually play with this, and you'll kind of develop a rhythm to when I want to use like versus equal. All right, because if you don't get your query right, you're either going to get nothing, or you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff. And so, the more that you play with this, the more you'll kind of be in tune with what works for you. All right. So what is a function? And again, this is just it's built into the code of SQL itself, and so we don't have to know that. It's kind of the whole black box concept that we've talked about so many times. Is that all we're doing is we know that it does this thing. All right, so we give it the parameter, and then it does its thing, and then it pulls out a result for us. All right, so here we have the function right. And so just like the function left, the opposite of this is that it's going to go to the right-hand side of the data set, and it's going to look at whatever you're specifying. So here we're saying in the column city, and we're going to look at the last 2 to the right pieces of data, and equals New York. All right, and so anywhere that last 2 bits of data equals NY, then that's what it's going to return. All right, so let's go here and let's talk about, and this is in the SQL Bolt lesson 3, and let's see what we got here. All right, so for some of you, hopefully you can see this okay. Some of this, if you've taken a programming class, this is old hat to you, and you can probably just turn it off now and not worry about it. All right, if you haven't taken a programming class or discussed Boolean logic somewhere else, then you need to tune in here. So here we have the operator. All right, so equals. All right, now for those of us who have had programming before, typically when we see the equal sign, it's equal equal. Okay, well, we can wipe that out here because we're just using the single equals, and so what we're saying is that it is this. All right, next one down, we have, again, we have two different ways of saying not equal. All right, and so programmers are familiar with the exclamation point and equal meaning not equal, but we also have the greater than, less than symbols right there next to each other, also means not equal. All right, so here we have like. All right, and this is not case sensitive. All right, and so what that means is that you know, whatever I put in there, whether it be capital B, capital C, it would return A, B, C in lowercase. All right, because it's not case sensitive. Not like, you know, it's just, again, the opposite of like. So we have equal, not equal, like, not like. So the percent sign here, used anywhere in a string to match a sequence of 0 or more characters. Okay, and we can only use this with like or not like. All right, so this thing can be very powerful. So what does it mean with 0 or more characters? So in this particular instance, so we've got the percent sign on both sides of at. Okay, and so it's going to look through there, and if it found AT, all right, then it was a, yep, okay, we got it, because 0 or more. All right, so if there were no characters in front of AT and no characters behind AT, it would return AT. All right, likewise for attic. So no characters in front, so AT is a match, and then no characters or more beyond, meaning that, you know, anything that's beyond here, it'll return. Yeah, got it. All right, so here we have attic. So, you know, it would also return cat or even bats. Oh, excuse me. All right, so here we have the underscore, column name like, and then an underscore. So that just matches one character, one single character. All right. Now let's talk about in and not in. All right. So a string exists in a list. All right. Now this is, again, for those of you who probably haven't had any type of programming class before, you're probably thinking, well, what's a string? Okay, so a string is just a character, all right? It's not a number, it's a character. So characters, punctuations, those are all strings. Even numbers can be strings, all right, depending upon how they're initially cast. So going back to our slide earlier today where we talked about creating a table and we could set up the data type for a particular column. All right, so if we set that column as a CHAR or a VAR CHR, varchar, then even if we put numbers in there, those numbers are going to be cast as a string, all right, rather than an integer, which is a whole number, or a float, which is a decimal number. All right, so that can be really confusing, especially when you're first starting out and be like, I don't really understand. So it's a number, but it's not a number. Okay, so again, it depends upon the data type that's set for that particular data set. All right. So here we go. A string exists in a list, and so column name N, A, B, and C. And so we had a list of strings, and you notice that all of these have quotes around them. All right. Even if you don't understand what a string actually is, all right, just know that if we're talking about strings, when we're doing our query, all right, they have to have quotes around them, and that's telling SQL that, hey, this is a string type of data. All right. So if I had a 1 with a quotation marks around it, it's saying, hey, the string value of 1. All right, not the number value of 1, the string value. All right, and I know it probably just confused several of you. If you are confused, please email me. I'd be more than happy to call you and hopefully try to clarify this. This is really difficult to teach online, and yeah. All right. And then so what does it mean? All right, so say that we create a list of authors that we like. All right, so yeah, let's think about this. We've got a database of millions of books. All right, and so we have a list of authors that we like, that we found that we really like, and so we want to find out what other books they've written. All right, and so we could go back to let's go here. So we're going to pretend that we have a table called books, and then one of those columns obviously is going to be the book name. Another column would be author, and then another column might be date of publication, whatever, I don't know. All right, so we're going to go through, and so what are we going to do? We're going to select, because we want to find the actual title of the book, so we're going to select title, all right, from my table, so from my table is going to be books, right, because that's the name of our database, where condition. Okay, and so what we're going to say here is where author in, and then we can drop our list in there. All right, and that list might have, I don't know, a list of 4 or 5 or 25 or 100 authors, whatever. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go one by one through that list, and it's going to search the entire database to find a match to that. And so any author that's in your list that's actually in this database is going to be returned. And so I think that you can see the power in that. All right, and so conversely, if we look at the not in, so we have a list of authors that we just absolutely can't stand, and we don't even want to look at books that were written by them because we know we're not going to like them. All right, so we might be able to, and so I could see that being used in a so we're trying to find a new series of authors to read, and I find myself in this a lot because I read voraciously, and the authors that I like, I've read everything they have, and I'm anxiously waiting for them to publish something else, right? And so I periodically try to find new authors that I like. And so we might have a column that is the title, author, and then another column might be genre, and so science fiction or fantasy, I don't know, whatever. And so, but I know that, there are certain authors, we'll say Robert Jordan, who's a science fiction author, sci-fi author, and actually I've read some of his books. He's just all of his books are extremely long, and so it's kind of and have multi threads going through them. And when I say multi, I mean like 20 threads running through them, and so they're kind of hard to keep track on who's doing what and who's who. And so it's more work to read them than it is pleasure. So you know, I would select title, and then I'm also going to want to return author, right? And then so I would select title, I would select author. Maybe I want to know when it was written, and so I might select data published, and I'm going to say from the table, which is books, where condition, where author not in, and here's my list of authors that I don't like, and genre equal sci-fi. And so what that should do is it should go through there, and any of those books where the genre is sci-fi, it'll return those so long as the author is not Robert Jordan. All right, does that make sense? I hope. Okay, so let's final thing, let's talk about and or. Okay, so if I have a condition, and let me hold on a second. That's not what I want. New. There we go. All right, so we're going to do select. When you're using the keywords, they don't actually have to be capitalized, but it helps. It helps differentiate, because some of these queries can be quite lengthy. All right, so we're going to select, and so let's say title, comma, oops, dang it, title, comma, author, comma, date published, from, and this is going to be database books, where, all right, and this is where we're going to use our conditionals. All right, and so let's see, so where title, well, let's do author, where author, and I could put not equal to Robert Jordan. All right, so it's going to go through and it's going to select everything in there where the author is not Robert Jordan. So anywhere, any other author, it's going to return the title, the author, and the date published for that book. All right, so in millions of these, I'm going to get literally millions back, but the only ones that will not be returned are author equals Robert Jordan. All right, so now we have and. All right, so with the and, what it's saying is that the condition on the left and the condition on the right must be met. All right, so author, so let's change this. So let's say that I do want to return, oops, where author, dang it, where author equals Robert Jordan, and I'm going to say title equals Stone of Tears. All right. So what it's going to do is it's going to go through all all of the data sets that are in here, and it's going to say, is the author Robert Jordan? And if the author is Robert Jordan, then it's going to say, and the title of this book is Stone of Tears. And if it does say that, then it's going to return that. And so it's going to return this information about that particular one. So there should only be one match to this, right? Because I'm not aware of any other book called Stone of Tears that was written by Robert Jordan. All right. So if for some reason Stone of Tears wasn't in this particular data set, all right, then it's going to return nothing because it has to match what's on this side and this side. Now, if I change this to an OR, click on it. All right. So what it's going to say is that if either one of these conditions is met, it's going to return this information. So it's going to go through all of the stuff, and it's going to say, is the author Robert Jordan? If the author is Robert Jordan, it's immediately going to return the title, author, and date published on it. It's not even, it's going to do what we call a short circuit evaluation. It's not even going to go to this next. All right. If it goes through and it says, is the author Robert Jordan? The answer is no. Then it's going to say, well, is the title Stone of Tears? All right. If the title is Stone of Tears, then it's going to return the title, author, and date published. If it's not, then it's going to bypass that one. It's going to go to the next and it'll say, is the author Robert Jordan? If it is, it's immediately going to return it. All right. If it's not, then it's going to ask the second question: is the title Stone of Tears? All right. So, and or can be very, very helpful in setting up your logic for finding exactly what it is that you want. And hopefully this was put simply enough for you. Again, if you're confused, please do email me, and I'll be more than happy to reach out to you and hopefully kind of walk you through it. I think as you go through the lessons in the SQL Bolt that a lot more of this is going to make sense for you. But again, you know, as I started working through the lesson, it was like, there will be some people who have not had exposure to the Boolean logic, or if they had, it's been a long time. And so hopefully this is helpful. Doc D out, and I hope that you have a blessed day.